Hello. So I know it's been a few days and I apologise. I have all of the bits and pieces to go in this journal that we are doing together. I've already gone ahead and almost done the other two. So what I do when I have to put everything in my journals is I lay everything out and I try to lay it in signature to start with. So there's not a massive amount of pockets and tucks and things in this journal, so I've got a little set or a little pile of things that I want to go in the first signature, second signature and third signature in terms of pockets, things that need to be stuck in. And I also have a few other bits that we will talk about as we go. So first signature, need my Fabri-Tac. I've got 3 things that I want to add to my first signature. Now, I've finally worked out how to use my sewing machine. Done some decorative stitching. Now, I've experimented with paper and all sorts of things, and it definitely has to go on fabric. So what I wanted to do was have these, just one per signature, and have it kind of hanging out slightly, because what I did was I've left about a centimetre gap because I want to put in tabs and lace trim and all that kind of stuff. So I've left a bit more room. This one I'm going to be quite restricted with because there's not a lot of room, and I don't actually know I'm going to do trim and things on those anyway yet. So what I do is, the first thing I'm going to decide is whether I want my little tabs to go at the beginning of each signature. So I'm going to just check that it would be suitable to put it at the beginning of each signature, and I think it will. So that's what I'm going to do with these. So I'm going to first of all put my first one in, and I have a similar process for doing my lace trims and things like that and tabs. I'll show you that shortly. It's not a scientific method at all. So what I do is I just line that up so I can make the glue the same length as my tab, trim, tuck, whatever it is I might be gluing. Now I don't want this to stick, and what I do is I turn my page over and decide how far I want this sticking out, and I always do it on the reverse so you can have a nice even sticky out bit. I think that's what I'll call it. Nice even sticky out bit. So I just hold that until it's dry and I'm good with that. Now I'm not going to do those until I do the second signature. I'm doing the first signature first. So what I do is I just have a flick through. Now there is a page in this journal that I stamped incorrectly. Now I'm just checking whether that's in my first signature. Actually, I probably should have done this first so I could have had this planned in advance. Right, it's not my first signature. I am really loving how this one's coming out. All of them, actually. I do love these books. So I have to stick that in. Must remember to do that when I get to the... And this one. I know it's in this journal because I did it on camera. I stamped the whole page and then I put, here we go. So actually this has worked out perfectly because this is the page where the stamp hasn't come out quite clearly enough, and this is what I was thinking of putting over that, so that's going to be perfect. So I'm just going to tuck that in because that's where I want that to go. So it's just a fluke that I managed to pick the third signature for that particular pocket. So I look for something where there's a lot of blank. Now the centre spread, there's a lot of blank here, so this is where I'm going to attach my little calico stamp. So this is quite a, you know, especially for someone like me, it's quite a slow process, but it's worth doing it. I mean, I know people put all of their things on their pages before they even sew them together. it's just, I don't know, this is just how I work. It's my process. I'm sure everybody has got a different method. So because that's at the beginning of the second signature, I'd like this particular pocket to go somewhere in the middle between here and here. I know it sounds stupid, but this is kind of how I do it. Now, that's quite busy. But this whole signature is a fairly busy signature, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my mushroom here because I think that's going to be a nice page spread. So I'm going to take the tag out and glue this down. Now I know there's some of you probably going to go, it's so difficult gluing things into a book when it's already made. I just find this the easy way to do it. I like having the book all together and then working out what I want in each signature. And I know a lot of people, like I said, they prepare all of their pages, they glue everything down. If I'm sewing trim in, then I do sew that in, obviously, before I sew the signature in. But I'm not actually sewing trim on this journal. There's quite a lot of threads. So for this journal, I'm gluing. And I do quite often glue because I don't know, I have some trims it's okay, but some trims I just have a bit of an issue having stitching down it. I don't know why. It's kind of like, I don't know, it's just one of those things for me. Some I can do, some I can sew, some I can't. Right, so I'm not going to pop the tag in there just yet because I don't want it to stick to any glue. So second signature, I want this one in the middle because we put the first one at the top. So I'm just going to glue this in. So, you know, you might find this a bit boring, but many of you said you're enjoying the process, so I thought I would show you this part of my process. This is how I do it. It's proper chilly here in Suffolk at the moment. It's like autumn. It looks like autumn out the window. Sorry, it's really chilly. Have a little bit of coffee. It was another 4 o'clock morning today. So this one, where did it go? This was some really gorgeous vintage note paper, and it had envelopes with it too, but the envelopes were already sealed shut, so I've used those, not in this journal, but for other things. I think I've sewn this in one of the others or two. Maybe I have, maybe I haven't. Maybe I glued it. I don't remember. But they've all got one of these pockets. So now I need to decide where I'm putting my little pocket and tag. So, see, the other thing is what I want to do is leave some of the plain pages to put on the trim and tabs. So I don't want to overload too much. I think I'm going to go this side on this page. I've got a new Fabri-Tac on the way. I've just finished 10 traveller's notebooks. They're basic ones, very basic, kind of more of a kit, I suppose, than a traveller's. Well, it is a traveller's notebook, but it's more of a kit. I hope to get the video for that done today, but I've got a bit of a busy one today, so might get those done, and I'd like to get all the images done first, actually, for Etsy. So, and then I'm doing a fair. Doing a fair in the first weekend in September, and I haven't really got an awful lot prepared for that as yet. So It's going to probably be a quiet week or two from me while I try and prepare somewhat. Otherwise my dad will tell me off. I agreed to this, I don't know when, months ago, you know, thinking I'll just do a little bit at a time and I'll have a nice little stash of stuff to take with me when it comes along. And here we are, 2 weeks before, and not a lot's occurring in terms of items for the craft fair, art show. It's an art show. I'm seriously hoping the weather improves too, because it's outside. Okay, so that's that, and now I've just got to find my little, here we go, my little pocket. Now this stuff is actually pretty good. The glue doesn't show through it, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a bead of my fabric tack is pants tack, I'm going to call this. So I'm just running a bead of glue around the outside, and then a little scribble in the middle, which will obviously not be seen. I haven't got that glue very close to the edge. I don't want to go too close to the edge, but I do want it, you know, to stick. I'm just going to dab a little bit of that off. And I'm going to pop that in this corner. So we're almost done with the little elements that we want sticking in. I'm just going to tuck that in. So we've got our 3 little kind of fabric tabs at the beginning of each signature, and I know this one's against the covering, you can't really see it, but I did want to, you know, have something at the beginning of each signature like that, so that's good. I'm happy with that. So what I have is I have 3 cutout tabs. I've got some lace and trim. The first thing actually is I'm going to decide where to pop these in. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I want to know later, I'm not going to do that on camera, but where I want my charms to go on my paper clips. So I'm going to have a look at the journal. Now this one has a charm on it, and I would quite like this in the centre signature, which means I can then have a bead dangle this side and it will kind of balance. Or if I wanted 4, I would go, you know, try and even them out as best I can. So if I go for 4, which means I can have, I know this sounds like really OCD, but I'm going to go charm, bead dangle, charm, bead dangle. So I would like to go somewhere around this area. I've just kind of basically all I've done is just gone, okay, so I'm going to go maybe 1 here, 1 here, 1 here and 1 here. Evened it out reasonably. I can always move paper clips around later on. Actually, maybe that's a good spot for this at the end of the second signature. I can always move things around later. Yeah, I like that there. And then, because I have 3 of these, I can actually line these up and use that one, because that's the tab that's going to be sticking out slightly when the book's closed. I don't know if you can see that. This all makes perfect sense in my head. Okay, so got that there. I want this somewhere around here, and this would be perfect because it's a nice blank page, and I'm popping that on there. That's not got a charm or anything on it, but that's good. I'm happy with that. So before I stick my tabs on and decide if I'm going to have them, I'm going to add some trim, and I decide kind of how many pages I want trim on. Now, because I've got these little tabs, I'm going to have 1 layer of trim per signature. That's all. I'm not going to go mad, because I also want to have my whatchamacallits. I want some trim tabs. So I've chosen these 3 trims for this particular journal. Now that I'm going to have to start from about there because that's got a bit of a crease in it. And this is what I was thinking of for the tabs. Okay, so technical way, I basically, as I've got 3, I want roughly the middle of each signature. Just roughly. That would be fine. Yep. Now I'm deciding which order I want these trims to go in. Now I really like this one because it's the most delicate one, so I'm going to put the delicate one in the middle. So on this signature I'm going for this larger trim. And again, it's all technically done in the same way that I don't use a ruler. Now when it's a larger trim, I do a scribble of glue. But I do make sure I've got a little run right at the very end there. And I wouldn't normally have it cut quite so long. I'd normally cut it a little bit more accurately. And I'm just going to trim off the excess. I'm not going to cut it flush to the page because I'm quite happy having a little bit sticking out at the top and the bottom. What I do want to make sure is though, because we've got a little flap here, I'm just going to run a tiny bit of glue there just to hold that down and make sure the bottom, yeah, bottom needs one too. So this is all, I'm very sure, rather boring for you to watch, but you know, this is what I do. This is how I do it. So yeah, I'm going to go here, which is, it's actually 1 page off the centre of this signature. I still have to glue these. And again, quite a thick trim, so I'm going to do a scribble of glue. For this one. And again, I turn the page over and see how much I've got sticking out. I mean, I could stop now and move on and come back and do these while I'm not filming, if you're bored, or just fast forward until I move on. Fast forward, guys. There is a speed up button apparently. Haven't found it yet, but there is one. Oh, have I found it? No, that's when I tried to edit my film once and put it on fast forward, and I sounded like a chipmunk. Oh, and I was going to do this right at the very beginning. I was telling someone earlier today that I have the memory span of a goldfish. Deborah's granddaughter Kylie, I'd like to say a big hello to Deborah's granddaughter Kylie. Hi Kylie. Or hello Kylie. So finally, third one. Obviously we know where the middle is. I think I'm actually going to whack it straight on the centre page. There's nothing, no stamping or anything on here, so it'll make this page a little bit more interesting. If this was a thin trim, I literally do 1 bead of glue along the edge. Now this trim has a slight bow to it, so it's not going to be quite as easy to get this straight. It's not bad, but I just use my fingers to kind of push it down where it's not level, because I do like a nice neat level line along there. Stick my glue on my Fabri-Tac. And the reason I want to put fabric tabs in is because they're great for hanging off garment pins and beads and things like that. So this is what we have now. It's looking pretty good. I might have to move this because it is fairly close to that trim. It's squashing it a bit. I always twist my paper clips off so I don't catch the stitching with the end. Am I happy with that by the tracing paper? Nope, I'm not. So I'm going to go here, and that's just going to give it a little bit more of a gap, I think. I mean, it is all visual, isn't it? That's, you know, all of this stuff we're doing is a visual thing. So, you know, it's just a case of looking at it visually. Is it pleasing to you? I don't have to have things perfectly symmetrical, but reasonably. You know, it's got to be reasonably well evened out. So I'm now trying to think about whether I actually want these tabs after all. I think I do. I know there's going to be a lot in this, but I really do want them. Right, so do I want them staggered top, middle, bottom? That one's kind of fairly close to the top. Right, I'm going to go top for this one. Literally, you know, it's really hard to explain your process when you just do it fairly randomly. I don't have a formula, is what I'm trying to say. I can put my tag in there now. I think I want it on this page. I think I want it on there because I think that would look really quite cool. Right, so this one I made by folding over, so I don't have to worry too much about gluing one half and then getting the other half to match. What I do have to worry about is trying to get Fabri-Tac out of my bottle. So I really hope you're not bored, guys. I really do, because this is, you know, like I said, this is a slow process, but so many of you have said you want to see the process from start to finish, and this is quite an important part of the process. So, you know, I'm showing it. Okay, I have already inked these, so they're cut and inked. You didn't have to watch me ink. Right, so that's one of our card tabs. Now I've got a feeling I'm going to have to make a fourth one, because I don't think I'm going to have enough, although I'm still doing the fabric tabs. So I think I'm going to put this one here, but I'm going to go down the bottom on this one. And that's the good thing about, you know, if you decide you haven't got enough, you just add more. But like I said, I want to do a few fabric tabs, trim tabs, so it's quite possible that these three will be enough, and then there's the fourth one on the mini file folder. So, you know, these. I really do like these tabs. Okay, so I now want one more from what I've got at the moment. I think I want it about here, and I'm gonna probably go, no, I'm definitely gonna have to have another tab somewhere around here, which will be the middle. So this one, I've got one there. I'm going to go middle again, so I'm going to make a fourth one, and that's going to go in the middle, and this one will be in the middle, but it will be two away from the other one. So in my head this all makes complete sense. You know, I've done this in several ways. I've put paper clips in before I even add the tabs, but then, you know, you think, yeah, this is where I want it, this looks good, this looks good, this looks good, paper clip here, paper clip there, paper clip here, And then when you change those paper clips for tabs, the tabs look very different to the paper clips, and it doesn't actually it doesn't actually work for me. It's not something that works for me. Yeah, I'm good with that. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and we definitely need a 5th one here. But obviously this could be moved around. Whoever buys this journal might not want it where it is. So let me just move that pin, have a little mouthful of coffee. There was something else I wanted to tell you. As my mum would say, it can't have been important because I'd have remembered, but that doesn't really mean anything because I actually forget a lot of stuff that is important. So what I'm going to do is I want my tabs to be the same size. So I'm just going to have a little fold and decide how big I want them. And that's plenty big enough. And that's 3 flowers. I know that probably makes absolutely no sense. But I'm going to cut 3 flowers. So all of these tabs will be the same. And I'm gonna cut 4. Doesn't matter if I don't use them all, but I'm gonna cut 4. Now I'm gonna need the stapler. And let me just move this pin. I stand on them all the time. Do you? Do you guys stand on pins? And I tell you what, I did drop the other day. This little jar, which is full of little brads, but I don't know if you can see, there are some teeny ones in there. And I picked it up, but I hadn't put the lid on properly the last time I'd used it. And the brads went everywhere, and I've been standing on those for about 3 or 4 days now. Okay, so here's the thing. I don't want tabs going in a straight line. I want them random in the same way that I've got these paper tabs. So I've got a card tab up there. I'm going to go for a paper tab somewhere around here. This is perfect because this is a bit of a blank space. So I think this one I'm going to put in the middle, roughly in the middle, just maybe a little bit up or down. So what I do is I put a tiny amount of glue and I'm sticking that one flower on the page. I always use the patterns to kind of guide me. Now I'm putting another little dab of glue there and I'm going to go for the same again. So I've got 1 flower on the page. So that leaves 1 flower that's kind of folded over. Now if I follow that same pattern, all of my tabs are going to be the same size, and I know that's not an issue. If I'm using fabric, if I'm using loads of different types of trim, I'm more than happy for my tabs to be different sizes. But because these are all the same trim, I want them the same. Oh no, that's really bad, isn't it? And now what I do is, actually I do it this way because it's the best way to get my stapler to work. Now I don't have a tiny tin one, which they look awesome. And what I do is I just flatten the back of that very slightly because I don't like those sticking out. I've got some lovely copper staples though. They finally came. You know, it's one of those things I ordered from AliExpress. Completely forgot I'd ordered them. And then they turn up and you're like, oh yeah, I bought some of those. Right, I'm going to go down the bottom, and I can't do it on this page. So it'll have to be, no, I can't do it on that page either. This is where it gets tricky. When you've got stuff on pages already. So I'm going to go for this one. They're getting a bit, it's going to be a bit close. No, that's fine, I'm going to go here. So yeah, ordered these from AliExpress, these copper coloured staples. And they arrived and I'd completely forgotten I'd ordered them. So it was like a little gift to myself, a little surprise. And now I've got copper staples instead of silver. Silver don't bother me, I'm not worried about silver staples at all. But you know, when you're on AliExpress and you're like, wow, that's really cheap, I'm going to buy those. I mean, it was ages ago. I don't know how long ago it was I ordered them. I'm just talking a load of pants, aren't I, really? You guys. Okay, so back. I know the camera died, but I carried on putting those 4 in, so you didn't have to, you know, be bored for too long. So I've now got 4 paper tabs, 4 fabric tabs. I've got my large signature tabs, and then I've got 3 pieces of lace trim, and I actually think that looks really pretty. I like it a lot. So that's kind of what it looks like. So that's that done. Now what else I do is I kind of decide where I'm going to put things like this. Now in the other signatures I haven't put this trim at the front, and I've put this tag at the front, but I can't do that now on this one, so I'm going to put it on the first available page, which is here. And I need some paper clips. Now I am very probably still going to add things to this journal. I want to print some of my country garden tags to go in here, or possibly maybe one of the some tags from one of the embellished kits. So where is my, oh, it's right centre. That's I'm going to pop this tag in that large pocket, and then right in the centre I need to glue these flaps down that I have added. So I'm just gonna run a bead of glue eventually at the top and at the bottom, and close that. I'll do the same this side. So I put my jumper on, I've had a coffee, and now I'm really warm. Wend'y was talking. Oh, I wish I had my glasses here. I needed to show Wend'y those. Long story, but basically I for a day went round wearing my glasses with just one arm on because the arm broke, which was fine actually. They stay on okay. They did stay on okay, but the only thing you can't do is pop them on top of your head, and I pretty much live with my glasses on top of my head. So I've got 2 tags left, and obviously I've got a couple of tags already in pockets and things. Now that one hasn't got anything attached to it, so I'm going to tuck, what do I want? I'm going to put that on the outside. I'm going to, I don't know where that's, there it is. I'm just going to paper clip that on there, and I've got one more, and I think it's always difficult knowing where to pin things, and I do move stuff around, like I said, quite a bit, change my mind. I think I'd like that on this plain page here. And the other thing I have is I have some of my seed envelopes, so I want a fairly big page. I think I'm going to attach that to this one, and I'm going to go for this journal, I think 1 per signature, so I can pop that tag in there now. Right, I'm going to have to cut some stitching off that because that's a bit tight with the stitching of where it is. That's probably dry enough for me to pop those in. And seed packet. I need a nice clear page. I think I'm going to maybe hold those together with that one. And then the last signature, what have I got? I've got a butterfly. I'm going to have this plant one, I think. That can now go into that pocket. Let's just find it. Oh, actually, I'm going to pop that right in the centre of the signature on this one. So now this journal is fairly full. This is kind of, I'd be happy with this because, you know, journals are about writing in, aren't they? Now, I was hoping these were going to be reasonably flat because I don't want to put, eyelets in. I didn't want to put a tie closure. I didn't want this, I don't know why. I did not want a tie closure. I'm quite happy to not have a closure on it. I probably will put something, maybe a tie on it, because of whoever buys it might want a closure, but I like them. I like them as they are. So the last thing I would do, and I'm not going to show you this whole process because it is going to be really boring, is I just pop, before I go ahead and do the final beads and dangles, and like I said, I am probably going to put a few more tags in these, is I do the beads. And what I've done is I've just gone ahead and grabbed a few beads that I might want to use in this journal. But what I think I'm going to do is follow a pattern. So on each one, I'm going to have a green and a yellow on each bead. So I thread this. It's really dark. I hope you can see clearly. So on here, I'm going a green bead. And then I'm going to have one of these kind of neutral sparkly ones, and I just give that a really good twist and a flatten with my finger, and it's so dark I can hardly see the whole of the beads. So I'm going to pop that on there. So what I do is I tie my knot, I pull my beads down and just decide how low I want them. And it's chucking down with rain. That's why it got so dark. There we go. So that's the first one. So on this one, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to put the small bead on first, but it's the same colour. I don't always have a pattern, but I quite often do have some kind of colour pattern or something. So you can see I've got the big one at the top on here and the big one on the bottom on that one, and these are both the strings from the first signature. So that is what I would do there. Might have this one hanging slightly lower so they're not all the same. And then what I would do is I would simply go along and follow that pattern. So they'll all have a green and a yellow bead on them. The dangle beads will be of various colours, and I certainly want to pull out some of the purples and the reds from the cover. So this is getting very close to completion. I do have to do the cover, and that's something I'm not sure if I'm going to do on camera or if I'm just going to surprise you when I do the flip through. But I'm very happy with that. I might even put tassel on here. Might put some kind of tassel on. But thanks for watching. I hope you found it useful and you weren't too bored with my process. But I will see you again soon in the next video.